Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I'm here with my voice teacher from college, Dr. Marc Reynolds. He has a doctorate in opera directing and he is one of the best voice teachers that I've ever worked with. He did so much in helping me figure out my voice. Now I'm excited to help him share his knowledge with you. So we are going to be reacting to and analyzing Sam Smith singing Too Good at Goodbyes live from Hackney Round Chapel. Do you have anything to say before we jump in?
I'm just honored to be here talking with you, reviewing this video. It's great fun.
You must think that I'm stupid. You must think that I'm a fool. You must think that I'm new to this, but I have seen this all before. I'm never gonna let you close to me, even though you mean the most to me. 'Cause every time I open up it hurts. So I'm never gonna get too close to you, even when I mean the most to you, in case you go and leave me in the dirt.
It sounds like he is not over-singing on purpose to prepare for this next part to be a little bit easier. He's going kind of between a breathier sound and then this not breathy at all sound. I think that when he goes to the high part that's about to come up, that he's going to really lean on the clear one, the not breathy sound. How do you think that singing like he has so far is gonna benefit him for the rest of the song?
I think it's really easy for young singers to start singing and want to give it everything right at the start. That ends up just getting things heavy. It gives them nowhere to go, gets the voice thinking, ooh, I got to work really hard at this, rather than starting in a place that's easy and comfortable and happy and saying, voice, this is what I want you to be.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing from him right now. It doesn't sound like he's hesitant to get big with it, but it does sound like he is exploring the light end fully so that he has as much room to grow as possible.
Definitely. I think keeping things relatively relaxed and floppy, easy, comfortable. The air is being really consistent.
Yeah. The air is consistent underneath everything. So he's just kind of leaning into the sound a little bit, getting a little more of that vocal cord closure, that adduction, and then coming back off of it and just testing how much he can give with it. But he's not squeezing it. And I think that that's going to set him up really well for the rest of the song.
But every time you hurt me,
See, and then it comes in clear. And then he kind of lets go of it again on the top and then comes back into it really smooth on the way back down. That's very hard.
Yeah. So when you listen to this and watching him do it, what is this falsetto? Is this head voice? Is this like him just keeping the placement forward? What do you think?
To me, it sounds like he's just so good at adjusting how much chord closure he has at any individual time. I would kind of consider that first part where it was really breathy falsetto, just because for me, falsetto is more a description of what things sound like than any actual vocal fold configuration. But what I am really impressed with is his ability to come from that sound, that really breathy sound, and start adding in that chord closure, the adduction, slowly through the phrase without it grabbing. A lot of times if someone is going from a place that is flipped, that is falsetto-like, a really breathy, light quality sound, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to start bringing that together smoothly, and it ends up grabbing and pulling or something. He doesn't get that at all. Being able to do that opens up a lot of different things that we can kind of challenge ourselves with.
Yeah, and I think something that's really interesting is when he's singing up high, when singers come in and they start trying to do that, male students, and they start singing up high, and it sounds really breathy and back there. It sounds like they're making fun of a girl's voice, right? They're imitating it.
Totally. Or like
Mickey
Mouse.
And they think that it's not what it needs to be. It's like, look, if you'll just keep that placement forward, buzzy, just like everything else, you're going to find that it stays as easy, but also it sounds strong.
I think that people, when they're starting something like this, they expect it to be perfect immediately. This is a kind of sound that takes a lot of time to develop and get really good at. It's not something that most people are able to just jump into.
Right.
And every time you come, I love you. Baby, we don't stand a chance. It's sad, but it's true. I'm way too good at goodbye. I'm way too good.
And then he kind of leans into it more.
I'm way too good at goodbye. No way that you'll see me cry. I'm way too good at goodbye. I know I'm cold.
What's really awesome for me right now is what he's doing performance side of things, like completely separated from what he's doing vocally, which is really impressive, but it's just consistent and easy. Because he's gotten the vocal stuff out of the way, he is open to do stuff with his performance. What are you noticing with that?
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot. First is people, they think of getting this powerful, big sound, right? And they confuse that with working hard and a lot of muscle work. He's not working with a lot of muscle work, like you're saying. He's relying on acoustics to give us power.
So would you say that it's still full voice or chest voice, or how would you kind of categorize that?
I think it kind of goes on with the falsetto thing, where these registers, these ranges become irrelevant.
Totally.
It becomes about singing in a balanced, easy place. We're just keeping that placement consistent for this and appropriate for the style. With him, he's keeping this forward placement, but a little more space in the back, which gives us this warmth and richness. And that's all I really care about.
Yeah, it's not all just brightness all the way through. He is balancing it out. And I think that that's a thing that people forget about, is that you can have both of these concepts existing together, both the forward buzz and a little bit of warmth and openness to everything. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Everything in voice is gradual. There's so much grayscale.
Yeah, and I think because, to answer your original question there, I think the difference here is because he's so easy there, his body is free to react to what he's feeling emotionally, and the idea is going through his head. He's not working at the singing. I don't even think he's probably thinking about the singing.
Not at all.
I think he's thinking about communicating, about feeling, thinking about these ideas that he's talking about.
What are some of the ways that that's manifesting in his body?
Yeah, there's a few things that we're seeing. If you look at his shoulders and his neck, first and foremost, we're not seeing any raised shoulders. We're not seeing any strap muscles getting tense. We're not seeing this jaw doing weird stuff that's distracting. And so that lets us focus on his eyes and his face and these really nuanced facial gestures. That's the number one thing. Number two thing, if you look at his hands, they're also not tense. We're not seeing like any grabbing, any like weird like thumbs up gestures, bear claws, or anything like that. He's using his hands like a normal person talking in a non-stressed environment. That's all we're looking for. The opera director side of my head is, I don't want anyone acting or pretending or doing some kind of stylistic thing. I just want to see a real vulnerable person.
So for people who are struggling so much with the technical side of things that they're not able to just let the performance happen organically, what's the thing that you would help, like just in general, someone who's feeling so locked up that they're not even willing to,
Yes, I do know. I work with this all the time. That's a great question. And the answer to that is actually really big. There are a lot of tools at our disposal, but let me give you two that come up first and foremost in my mind. Number one is taking the time to separate out. I'm now performing and just communicating. I'm chucking all the technique out the window, and I'm just going to focus on trying to sing easy and communicate. Then I'm going to take time and just try to work the technique. Then I'm going to go back to the performance mode. Then I'm going to go back to practice mode. This is the technique, performance mode. So that's number one, is training the mind to be able to separate those things. Too many people take practice and performance and make them the same thing. They're not.
Totally.
Number two thing that I think is really important as we're talking about releasing that is understanding anxiety and stress and how to release that. And if I could give the most potent, important thing that anyone can do right now is to go on and start learning how to meditate. That goes with the thing before. The same idea being training your mind to focus and live in a moment. There's great apps for that. There's Headspace. I love that. Has little 10-minute segments.
Not a sponsor.
You can go on YouTube for free. But what's helped you to relax? I mean, you spend a lot of time overthinking and trying to get out of your head. What's made the difference for you?
It's focusing on sensation, honestly, and rather than trying to manipulate individual parts all the way through, because once you get a little bit of information about how the voice works or something, the first tendency is to try to manipulate all of those individually. Like we have this mixer board in front of us and we can turn on how much TA engagement we have and we can control our onset, and everything becomes so mechanical and trying to control. But there's hundreds of factors that you cannot control individually. Focusing on something that's more just the sensation associated with it really lets your body do its job. Once you're in that kind of space, then it's just focusing on, like you said, the communication aspects, the eye shifts, and knowing what you're looking at and who you're talking to all the time. And if you're focusing on the sensation of it while you're going through that process of trying to be expressive, the body just lines up. If you put in the work, I have this analogy that I like. I used it in a few videos ago, a car mechanic. So if you are driving your car a lot and you're thinking about how individual pistons are firing while you're driving it, you're probably not going to be paying attention to the greater road and to what you need to be focusing on. But when you park it and you're working technique work, you have to actually be able to fiddle around with things a little bit. That's what you mean by like separating I'm working technique right now versus I'm performance. And then when you drive the car, you just have to drive the car. Like you can't think about those other things. You've put in the work of like knowing what everything will feel like. So just trusting your body is the best way to kind of get past that. But it's hard. I think that's kind of the hardest thing about learning how to sing is getting past the point where you feel like you're in control and just letting your body do its thing.
I think your point there about sensation being a starting point is really huge. As a voice technique thing, but also as a performance thing, because you stop analyzing yourself and judging, and you're just observing the feelings that are going on and trying to match this easy feeling, this vision that you are, rather than being like, I suck or I can't do this.
So what do you think some of the differences between performance in this situation are compared to performing in a fully staged out opera versus performing, just opera in general? Because it feels like there are so many rules for classical music that it's kind of hard for people to commit to it or to know what's going on. And the same thing is kind of true with performance for pop music, where people just stand there and sing and they might not be letting us in all the way, but it's so noticeable by the viewer.
That's a big question. Let me respond to it succinctly. To me, the difference, the pre-work, the thought process, and how we approach it, it's the same. It's the same with music theater, same with pop, opera, it doesn't matter what you do. We as humans work in a very specific way. We think in terms of stories, we think about relationships, and then our body comes along for the ride. Our body language reflects what we're feeling and thinking. The big difference here is actually, instead of the style, is that we have a video camera. If he's on stage, he's going to have to play as big as an opera singer. The bigger his music is, the more instruments, the bigger he's going to have to act because the music's going to call for it. Same thing in opera. The bigger the music, the bigger and more boisterous it is, and in asking for dramatic intent, the bigger the action has to be. But when we have a camera involved, it's a totally different story because that camera is right in their face, which causes two things. One, they don't have to play as big. They could be more nuanced. But that has a flip side to it. As soon as you stop communicating and go into technique, self-evaluating mode, we see it right away. So you have to really learn how to train that mind to stay in performance mode, to stay in communicating and being a real person and not get sucked into, do I sound right? Am I singing right? And just chucking that all out the window and living in that moment.
I'm just protecting my innocence. I'm just protecting my soul. I'm never gonna let you close to me, even though you mean the most to me. 'Cause every time I open up, it hurts.
Good. And that microphone is helping him a lot. That's a really deep sounding microphone, actually. So I don't think that he's pushing or trying to overround to get any of this sound. He's just being him and letting the technology assist everything.
So I'm never gonna get too close to you, even when I mean the most to you, in case you go and leave me in the dirt. But every time you hurt me, the less that I cry. And every time you leave me, the quicker these tears dry. And every time you walk out, the less I love you. Baby, we don't stand a chance. It's sad, but it's true. I'm way too good at goodbye.
And then he opens it up, like you talk about all the time, shows a little bit of his upper teeth. Can you explain a little bit about that? I haven't really brought that concept into this channel before.
Yes, so the upper tooth smile is what I call it, right? And we just see this top row of teeth come out all the way like back to the molars most of the time. We see it from opera over to pop to music theater. It doesn't really matter what we're seeing. The singers that sing day after day and have to make it work, we see it come out. If I had to break it down simple, first it's a performance thing, meaning we as an audience relate with people who are smiling, even if they're sad smiling, right? We still see that person as a protagonist, the person we empathize with. So that's important. Vocally, though, it's really important because it's the easiest way to think of it is like our voice is like an acoustic guitar in terms of these teeth up here are kind of like a sounding board, where if we take a wet blanket and throw it over the front of the guitar, what's the sound going to be like? It's going to be like muffled and dead, right? Same thing here. We let this fall down, and it's like we're putting a wet blanket over our sounding board. The other thing is by lifting here, the resulting lift behind it also opens up acoustic space and keeps things moving and keeps it forward and keeps that forward resonance that we need in almost every genre that we hear.
It's a nice tool that is like immediately applicable to people. So if you are in the technique mode and we're working on this kind of stuff, try just A/B testing it. Smile into it for a little bit, see if it feels better. Go back to the other way, see which feels better for that specific situation. But more often than not, little things like that really do just brighten up the sound, make you a little bit more present. It's a nice trick.
Another thing that you see there that I love that I'm seeing is you get this view from up above here where you get to see right down into his mouth. His tongue is just so relaxed. It's just so sitting there totally passive, just like he's talking. He's not trying to do any extra or excessive with it. And we see it. We see no tension in here. We see it's just this easy, gorgeous sound.
You can see a little bit of a vein, but that's going to happen anyone if you're singing up that high with a connected voice for that long. Compression isn't a bad thing. You need to have some compression in order to get your vocal cords together and functioning well. The problem is grabbing into it and starting to use extrinsic muscles. We have to figure out how to separate what muscles are important for helping out a sing and what muscles don't matter at all. He's done a really good job at that. And the tongue is such an important one because it's huge and it's strong and it always wants to be engaged. So taming that one is hard.
Maybe an exercise that's easily applicable. You're singing, just sing with your tongue hanging out of your mouth like a puppy dog tongue. Don't really shove it out far, but just let it sit there and look in a mirror. If you see that tongue pull back into your mouth, you should be able to sing through the whole thing with just keeping that tongue nice, flat, and forward.
It's just like Adam Lambert. Like, he actually has it out all the time. He takes this concept and puts it in everything that he does very visibly.
I'm way too good at goodbye.
He's looking great too. His style is awesome. I know this was a while ago, but still.
I'm way too good at goodbye. Oh, no, 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 no.
Oh, I love that part. He kind of started it really, not big, not like pulling chest or anything, but it was a more open sound. And then as soon as he started approaching that high stuff, he narrowed it in. He made it a little bit more pharyngeal, a little bit whinier, just a funnier sound. And it helped him get up there smoothly without any of the extra pressure that might have happened if he was trying to pull this open vowel up higher.
Did you also notice when he started down below, this lower lip was covering the teeth?
I didn't.
And then as he went higher, we saw this top teeth come out. It's an O vowel. And so usually we think O, but we got some extra pressure down when he started on the lower notes. I would have been worried that he's going to carry that up.
I think on O vowels specifically, like O and Ah, people always want to overround it. It's going, oh, oh. The rounder one, it just wants to break and it wants to get heavy all the time. If you can keep it brighter, it won't do that. And he kind of flips for a second and then comes back connected, but he's so good at going back and forth.
You hurt me, the less that I cry. And every time you're leaving me, the quicker these tears dry. And every time you walk out, the less I love you. Baby, we don't stand a chance. It's sad, but it's true. I'm way too good at goodbye.
Those shots of his mouth and his tongue, it just reinforces what you were just talking about.
Yeah, this is an awesome video to study and watch and see, because it really does just stay right on his face and show you everything he's doing.
What are some of your other main takeaways from this? Do you think that there's any one or two things that people can watch and really start immediately applying to their own singing?
I think one is keeping that placement forward, keeping it buzzy all the time, not by pushing it there, but by opening that space and trying to keep it in that place. As I was watching, one of the big takeaways that I was reminded of is of how valuable it is to video yourself when you're practicing. If I were him and I had videoed this would be a great thing to evaluate myself on, both on performance. Am I really being honest? Are there moments when I don't believe it anymore? But also, am I seeing tension somewhere? I might not have felt it, but if I see it, I know something's going on.
Another benefit for the videoing of everything is that you get an audio recording, so you can go listen back after the fact, hear yourself with a new set of ears that you wouldn't really be able to hear in the moment, and then make smart decisions about what kind of things you need to adjust so that you can have a next better practice session. That functionally allows you to be your own teacher. It's not quite as great as someone in person being able to call out things as it's happening or whatever, but you can still learn so much by listening and recording yourself. It's undervalued.
Something to look up is deliberate practice. It's a scientific thing. There's some really great books out there that talk about it. Having video of yourself is scientifically proven to improve your performance.
Well, thank you so much for being on my channel. I am thrilled that I'm able to help other voice teachers have a platform and be able to help a lot of people at once. And I am so thankful for Marc. So go watch Marc's video. We actually have another video that we reacted to a J-pop song together, and that will be available on his channel. So go watch Marc, subscribe to Marc, comment on Marc, thanking him for being here, and maybe I can convince him to be a more regular kind of feature. So.
I would love to. And as you all know, because you all watch him on a regular basis, Sam is amazing.
Thank you. It's too much. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to Marc. Have a good one.